Yes, I call this meeting of the Mobile Home Rent Stabilization Control Board of Howell Township to order. Give the opening statement, please.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Mobile Home Rent Stabilization and Control Board of the Township of Howell was provided in the following manner. By the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on December 13th, 2019, by forwarding a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press on December 13th, 2019, by filing a copy of said notice with the Township Clerk's Office on December 13th, 2019. Public participation at this meeting is permitted upon invitation of the chairperson. On June 29th, 2020, a notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press that this meeting would be held remotely using communication equipment due to COVID-19 restrictions. Roll call. Mr. Cantor?
Here.
Ms. Jordan?
Here.
Mr. Quattrano?
Here.
Mr. Staunton has been excused. Mr. Orozco?
Here.
Mr. Rouet?
Here.
Mr. Russo?
Here.
Okay.
Who is Diana Smith?
She is a member of the public. She's put on mute until you call the, open it to public comment.
Okay.
So any participants that are calling in, I'll be putting them on mute if I see that, but she'll be up first on the list to speak.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
All right, this is going to be a little awkward. There's a flag where Ms. Jordan and Mr. Clark are sitting, but can we all rise and salute the flag, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and liberty for all. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. May we have the minutes, please? And I see that the minutes were emailed to us.
Oh, yes. Mr. Cantor? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Do we have a motion to accept the minute as posted?
I'll make a motion to accept the minute.
Motion by Ms. Jordan. Need a second?
Do we have a second?
I second. We have a second from somebody.
I just need to know. Who seconded it? Sorry. Mr. Quattrano, okay. Mr. Cantor?
Quattrano.
Okay. So roll call.
Okay,
Ms.
all in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Do we have any correspondence?
Yes, just vacancy decontrol notices from Angle Inn and Oak Hill. And that's it.
Okay. All right, no business. No old business?
None. And none.
Okay, we're moving into new business. We do have the resolution that you mailed out to approve the rental increase that we considered last time on Winding Brook Mobile Home Park. Does anybody have any questions on that? No. Okay, can I have a motion to approve that resolution, please?
I make a motion to approve the resolution for Winding Brook Mobile Home Park.
Thank you. And a second, please?
Second.
Second from Mr. Roscoe. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The resolution is approved. Let's move into the hearing. Mr. Hammond, Mr. Clark, is anybody need to be sworn in?
So, yes, why don't we swear Mr. Rouet in, because he's going to be the witness for this, and then we can just move into it. Mr. Rouet, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and then once Mr. Rouet goes to testify, we'll have him state his name and business address for the record. Mr. Hanlon, he's your only witness, correct?
I have Mr. Lackey, who's also,
Oh, okay.
who makes, I want to swear him in just in case.
Yeah, I'll swear him in as well. Mr. Lackey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
Okay, and we'll have him state his name and business address later on when called to testify.
All right, and with that, let's turn it over to Mr. Hanlon. Mr. Hanlon, please.
And I just want to let everyone know, I'm going to mute everyone except for Mr. Hanlon and Mr. Rouet and Mr. Lackley. So just give me a moment before, so it can be, we have no background noise. Yeah. And then if anyone has questions, I mean, just try to note it, but we'll save it for the end, or there's a little raise your hand button if you have any questions.
Mr. Hanlon?
Yes.
If, when you refer to exhibits during this, if you could do it by Bates number, that would be helpful for us, because we're going to pull them up on the screen, and it's probably going to be easier for us to find them by Bates as opposed to exhibit.
Okay, so you understand that.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you well. What was that you said?
I was asking my client, if he's going to be testifying, I want to make sure he does that. So
okay.
I'll be in but I don't think he heard me. Did you, Bob?
No, I didn't. What did you say?
All right, Mr. Clark has made it clear that when you refer to any exhibit, he wants you to refer to the OH number,
Okay,
the date stamp, so the board can follow along. Okay?
very good.
Good, all right. Can I proceed, Mr. Chair? Oh, sorry, never mind. I just caused...
Mr. Hanlon, Mr. Hanlon, is there a way for you to increase the volume of your microphone?
I don't know.
Okay, because I'm having trouble hearing you.
All right, how about now?
Perfect. Much
Okay.
better. Thank you.
Okay, so, first, I want to thank you all for doing this. I do municipal work throughout the state of New Jersey. This is my fourth or fifth Zoom meeting, but incredibly, there are municipal agencies who are refusing to, and they're adversely affecting people's property rights. So I want to commend anyone who's trying to go above and beyond, and I think that's what you're doing. So thank you very much. Right, Mr. Rouet, you've been sworn in. Before we start with your testimony, Mr. Clark, just to confirm, and the board should know this, we have filed an affidavit of mailing. It indicates that the application has been mailed to all of the tenants on May 27th by certified mail, return receipt requested. I have all of the green cards that we got back from the post office with me. With Mr. Clark, he wants me to hold on to them until appropriate to get to your office. Second, we have filed an affidavit of posting indicating that the notice, which was drafted by Mr. Clark and Ms. Duran, includes special language concerning accessing this meeting, was posted in the mobile home park by Mr. Lackey on July 1st, 2020 in compliance with the ordinance. So I believe we satisfied the notice requirements of the ordinance. All right, Mr. Rouet, you've been sworn. Now you can give us your name and business address again.
Yes, it's Robert D. Rouet. My address is 2920 Open Range Road, Celina, C-E-L-I-N-A, Texas, 75009.
All right, so the application has been filed by Oak Hill. Before we get to that, who's your employer?
RCAP LC.
Okay, and who owns the Oak Hill Manufactured Home Community?
Oak Hill MHC LLC.
And are they affiliated companies?
Yes, RCAP is the management company for the Oak Hill community.
And how long have you been involved with supervising the management of this asset?
For about 21 years.
And has that relationship between those entities been the same during that time period?
Yes, it has.
You're familiar with the operation of the park?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar?
I oversee the operations of the property and the staff.
And you've been doing that for 21 years?
22, actually.
Okay. The application that the board is concerning, you actually prepared it, correct?
Yes,
And does the financial information contained in the application correctly reflect the books and records of the company?
yes, it does.
The rents are all accurately listed?
Yes, they are.
You applied for a 5% increase, correct?
Yes.
What factors do you want the board to take into consideration as they evaluate your request?
I'd like the board to consider all of the statements, information, and the pictures in the package the board has, along with the testimony I and staff members give. Also, I want to point out that Oak Hill has a current license from the township based upon an inspection protocol, which we have passed. We have passed it every year for the last 21 years. To the best of my knowledge, we are in compliance with all applicable codes.
Okay. Describe the property for us, for the record, basically, briefly.
Yes, Oak Hill Community is a manufactured land lease community. We rent sites in the community to residents who own the manufactured housing unit. We do not rent any manufactured housing units.
Okay. And
It also includes, it's 300 sites. We have a clubhouse, there's a parking lot, detention pond, there's a playground, common area. There are a lot of roads, I don't know the exact mileage. We have a lot of trees, bushes, and shrubs, signage that we take care of, 2 playgrounds.
Okay, and let's talk about how the asset is maintained, please.
All right, our team undertakes an extraordinary effort together with Mr. Lackey, who is a licensed professional in New Jersey, take care to maintain the property which undergoes significant wear and tear over the years because there are 300 housing units on it with 300 families. We probably have approximately 11 to 1,200 human beings living on the property. Oak Hill is operated and maintained as well as, if not better, than any other land lease community in Howell and the surrounding area. I'd like to go through some examples which are set forth in the exhibits. The first one I'd like to refer to is, so it would be OH 41.
All right, hold on, I'm just gonna pull it up, just give me a minute.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, what was the number again?
OH41. It's titled Exhibit I.
Right here. Oh.
Caitlin, I think it's 41.
Oh, 41. I thought you said 41, sorry.
Yeah, you did, but it was being digital.
Sorry. All right.
And the exhibit, just so we're clear, Mr. Rouet, is an expense list that goes through OH 44.
That's correct.
I didn't know what you want me to scroll. Scroll.
And just so we're clear, the Clark members have this exhibit, right?
I could not hear that question.
I was just asking Mr. Clark if the board members have this exhibit.
I can't hear. I think you asked if the board has the exhibits?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, it's-
Everything
Thank you.
that was filed has been circulated to the board.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to be.
Yeah.
clear about it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Rouet. You were explaining about this exhibit.
Okay. This is exhibit, which starts on page 42 and goes to page 44, is a list of examples during 2019-2020 of ongoing property maintenance and services and related costs. This list is provided to the board to give an example of consistent ongoing level of services, maintenance, repair, and improvement provided to the tenant. The list is an example. It's not a list of all the work that's done. We're not asking for this dollar amount, specific amount to be passed through.
Bob,
Yes,
you're not coming through clear. So I'm going to ask you to try to lean back a little. You're not. See if that improves.
second.
But speak loudly. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, then I'd like to refer to OH 445, OH 45. It's titled Exhibit J.
Okay, so I guess people are having trouble hearing you. So I don't know if we can improve. Caitlin, would you vote for 45?
Yeah, it should be up. Exhibit J. Can you guys see it?
No, it's not. What I'm seeing is the prior exhibit.
Yeah, it's 44. We're still on 44.
That's what they want, right?
Yes, we have on our screen Exhibit J OH 45. What is it that everybody sees on their screen?
Exhibit J.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that on my screen.
We still have 44.
Yeah, maybe just give it a minute to load. Maybe there's a little
Okay.
delay.
Okay, thank you.
Takes a little while to get to Texas.
Yeah. It's weird, but it's like what we got.
I have no objection to the chairman.
Is there anybody other than Mr. Roy who is not seeing exhibits yet?
We don't see it, either. On the back page.
Yeah, it's still on the, list of services. We're not on J yet.
I'm gonna try and load it again, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Can you see
I
it
can
now?
see it now.
Okay, perfect. Can everyone else see it?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, we also see it here, okay.
Okay, do you remember where you left off, Mr. Roy?
Okay, so Exhibit J shows some of the extraordinary expenses we've incurred. We remodeled the house for approximately $13,700. We had some extraordinary snow plowing expenses amounting to about $30,000. We did some tree work for $3,700. And we provided, it's, by code, we're supposed to do one bulk pickup a year. We've done at least two, and we do pick up bulk items at other times of the year, as well as pick up brush, which is something we had kind of committed to in front of the board a number of years ago. And we spend about $22,000 in those activities. These expenditures also prove that the property is maintained on an ongoing basis. Okay, now I'd like to move on to OH 41. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me change that. Yes.
Mr. Hanlon, I just want to let you know that we put you on mute. There just seems to be a little background noise coming, but just wanted to let you know. What did he say?
Okay, yeah, what I'd like to do then is go on to the pictures in the back, which is OH 71.
Could you repeat that exhibit number?
OH 71, Caitlin.
OH 71.
Okay, this exhibit, which run from OH 71 through all the way to OH 99 are a group picture. So what I'd like to do is go to OH 72.
Before we go any further, I was just informed that our microphone here in Howell was on mute. So I just want to tell Mr. Hanlon that there was some background noise coming from, coming from his background. So we have him on mute right now, but if he needs to say anything or to communicate with Mr. Way, just raise your hand and we'll see you on the video and we'll unmute you at that point.
Okay, can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're looking at the group of pictures in A, OH 72, 73, 74. These are just a couple pictures of very well-maintained tenant-owned units. They obviously exhibit the pride of ownership, and it's something we strive to work with the residents to get all of the housing units and the sites to look like this. The next group of pictures B, which are on OH 75, 76, 7, 78, 9, 80, 81. These pictures show examples of housing units that there's been a lack of maintenance to. And the point here is that this is one of the expenses, an ongoing expense, because we have to oftentimes take legal action to get residents to bring their homes into compliance, like some of those other people who exhibit a high degree of right of ownership. So it's an ongoing expense for the property that we do execute on an ongoing, regular basis. And unfortunately, it is basically a never-ending process. As you get someone to come into compliance, fortunately, someone else fall out of compliance. But it does show that management does this on an ongoing basis. Okay. Then we'll move on to group C, which is OH 82 or OH 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. This group of pictures is an example just to point out that, you know, we do maintain the community. We replace signs as necessary. We maintain the roads, steel cracks in the road. See a picture of the clubhouse from a few years ago. We completely redid the outside and the doors, windows, everything. That's what that group represents. The next group is D. That is OH 87, 88, 90. This group of pictures of the interior of the clubhouse. It shows that we remodeled the clubhouse. And we'll come back and refer to that as we talk about some of the expenditures for that. The next group of pictures, H 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. This group of pictures shows housing units which have a program where when a home is abandoned, take that home and we have a standard, we bring it back up to community standards. In fact, we go beyond that. We generally put a new roof on it, replace all the siding, replace the windows, all the doors, repair or replace deck, steps. Same thing with any shed that's on the property. We usually upgrade the ground landscape, and then the home is returned to rent. This program doesn't cost the tenants, and the property will not make any money. The next group. now I'd like the final group of pictures, which is OH 96, 97, 98, and 99. Those show pictures of housing units that have been put through this program and return to rent-producing sites. Mr. Lackey heads that program up and does a really fantastic job getting the homes turned around. Have we lost Mr. Hanlon?
Mr. Ray, his microphone was creating a lot of feedback, so we have him on mute. He has my cell number to text me if he needs to ask a question. And so we're
Can you
going to
hear me now?
unmute him now.
Yes, you're unmuted.
Okay. I've gone to the headset maybe to try to avoid some feedback.
It's much better.
Okay. However, I'm having a problem with Mr. Rouet's audio. A significant echo. Are you getting that from me now?
We are not. It's pretty clear on our end.
Okay.
I believe that is because of the Howell Township lead. When you were muted, we didn't have the echo.
Only I have it. That's
No, I
okay
have
then.
too.
All right.
Well, what we can do on our end for temporarily is we will mute our microphone. If anybody needs to hear from us or speak or anything, raise your hand and we'll unmute ourselves, because we have a speaker going in here, and so it may be feeding back through our microphones.
That's definitely what it is.
Why don't we mute ourselves then? And give me a thumbs up after we mute it if it's better.
Okay. I'm going to continue. Someone should interrupt me if they don't want me to. All right, Mr. Rouet, discuss the various rent levels in the mobile home park, please.
Okay, for that, I'd like to refer to OH 39 and OH 40.
Go ahead.
I don't have it up on my screen, but I have no problem with moving forward. So on OH 40, a summary and breakdown of current rates in the community. And one of the things I'd like to point out is that the
Bob.
rental rate is $576.44 before township fees. Every month, as part of the rental rate, there are a number of pass-throughs, licensing fees, a monthly $13 per month site, the real estate property taxes. And on the average rent, that totals $77.28, which then means the average rent paid is $654 approximately. There are 100 different rates in the community. The community has 300 sites and there are 100 rates. Some of them are only pennies apart. So I know that can be kind of confusing when a resident will testify about their rate, they'll talk about an $800 rate, and there are about 12 people who are up in that category, but the average rent is $654, and if you subtract the township fees, it really is $577. The
Township fees include taxes and municipal service fees, correct?
That's correct. And they total about $278,170 a year that we pay to the township. And we pay that whether or not the tenant is paying us. And we pay that whether or not the site is vacant, or non-producing, non-performing. We still pay those fees to the township.
Okay, let's talk about what's happened in the mobile home park during the last quarter. So basically, during the pandemic, what effects have you seen at the property?
Okay, for that, I'd like to go to OH9. OH10 and OH11 and OH12. It's titled Exhibit B, and this shows that at the moment we have $136,453 in outstanding rent. The significant portion of that is due to tenants or all of it's through non-payment on sites.
That's as of June. That's as of June 12th, correct?
Right, and that number is in fact continuing to grow.
And give the board some perspective. Is that a normal arrears for this community?
No, it's not. It's not a normal dollar amount. It's up significantly.
Of the 300 sites, how many would you say are in arrears at the moment?
Well, what I've provided there is, and I didn't count, but you see a listing. Now, obviously to protect the privacy of the tenants, we didn't include names and site numbers. So I don't know the number, but you'd have to count these up. I'm guessing there's.
It's about 60.
60, okay.
Thank you.
Right now, the courts are closed and there's a freeze on evictions. There's no way to collect the outstanding balance. The DMV isn't issuing titles, so those homes that are abandoned titles that are in the process or have been brought back to standard can't be sold because we cannot get a title, give good title to anyone. We actually have several tenants who are on that list who were delinquent before the pandemic, some of which we were in the court process with when it got frozen, which is kind of, and unfortunately, they're continuing to not pay. And even worse than that, some of them are encouraging other residents not to pay their rent as well. We are allowed by law to, and we do when a tenant requests it, credit their security deposit to any delinquent account they have. We've had a significant number of residents take advantage of that, and that has helped them to a degree.
That was actually a kind way of saying that. During the pandemic, a law was passed requiring you to do that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But we can only do it if the tenant requests it. We cannot do it on our own. We can't go take that money if a tenant owes us money. They have to fill out a form and authorize us to take it. Right now, we can't enforce the leases because the courts are closed and evictions are now banned. I originally put in here till September, but I think it's now been extended even further. We don't want any evictions. I want everyone to understand that. But our experience is that the process is quite often full getting tenants to come to terms and to make some kind of payment arrangement to save this housing option for themselves. We want the tenants to be able to stay. we take no joy in seeing somebody lose this as a housing option. We do everything possible to work with residents, but it obviously is unfair to the other residents who are paying their rent to have to supplement those people who are not. We anticipate that once the court process restarts, we will be entering into payment arrangements with tenants to help them save their tenancy. And we anticipate payment arrangements will go into the next year.
2021.
That's correct.
Okay. In case anyone is interested, has this business operation been able to take advantage of any of the loan opportunities that have been made available through the Federal CARES Act or other federal legislation?
No. And I would refer to HO 8, which is titled Exhibit A.
My screen is frozen. I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. On my screen, I am seeing OH8 come up.
All right, I'm going to log out and log back in because somehow my screen froze.
Mr. Chairman, well, I guess he's gone. My screen is frozen too, but it's like me, it catches up.
I can reload it too.
Yeah, why don't we reload it? Here, I'll mute it. So everybody knows, on the Howell end, we are going to reload that exhibit as well and see if that clears up some of the lag.
Thank you. There we go. Ouch.
Right.
Okay, so actually what we want is not OH8, but probably the following page.
Yeah, it is OH8.
Well, except that's just an exhibit reference. So the data that you want the board to look at would be on, oh, you're correct. I'm wrong. OH8. Okay.
Well, it has not shown up on my screen, but I'm just going to move on because it's just an article that shows that manufactured housing communities, unfortunately, were excluded from the payroll protection program.
And more importantly, your testimony is you have gotten no relief under any of the available schemes people may have read about in the newspaper or online.
Right. We did not. One of the reasons for that exclusion, the logic of it, apparently seems to be that since the residents of the community, the citizens in this country, were given money or extended unemployment benefits, I guess the thought was that they would take that money and pay their rent. That was part of the CARE Act, that money would help people sustain. And to the credit of a lot of residents, that's exactly what they used it for. Unfortunately, there are a number of people that did not use it for that. The property has received funds from no other public source. No charities have stepped forward. The township isn't volunteering to forgo taxes or anything, and they're not paying the tenants' rents. The only source of income that the property has is the tenant rental payments. Unfortunately, the mortgage on the property also prohibits us from getting any kind of secondary financing, second mortgage, or whatever instrument one wants to call it, on the property. So we have to rely solely on the rental payments from the tenants.
Okay, so those are the factors you want the board to consider. How would you like the board to react? What ruling are you looking for here?
Okay. So in conclusion, I'd like to say it's my understanding that Winding Brook was awarded 5%, and I believe that the board should apply a consistent housing policy as it relates to limiting rents for this housing option, manufactured housing in land lease communities. We would like the board to approve the full 5% effective on the anniversary date of August 1st, so we keep that anniversary date. But in an effort to continue to work with the residents, if the full 5% is granted, we would agree to waive the collection of the increase until September. Even though we need to keep the same August effective date so that we do not sustain a loss of income every year hereafter, because of our desire to work with the residents this year, we're willing to do this. And we will be able to do more, even more, we hope, for people once we get to the point of being a one-on-one basis, that we can start talking to the individuals about their specific circumstances and the rent defaults that they are in. We're not looking to evict anybody, and we will work with those that have actually suffered some income loss, but there are going to be rent defaults which are significant, and there are some people who will not have suffered losses, and we must do the best we can to collect what we are allowed to collect from those who owe it. That's the end of my statement.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I guess it's time for cross-examination.
Okay.
Does anybody on the board have any questions of Mr. Way? If you do, raise your hand so we can see who might. Okay. Mr. Cantor, you're unmuted.
Okay, I just have one question, and I certainly appreciate your explanation of the effects of the COVID-19 virus on your mobile home. I appreciate the damage to your business income. My question is on the snow plowing, though. You stated $30,000 of snow plowing. We didn't have any snow this year. Can you explain that?
Well, remember, this is a prior year, so it's not this past winter, but prior. See some people signaling they can't hear. Mr. Russo?
You're better now.
Yeah, I think, do you happen to know which exhibit that was? We can find it here.
It was OH 45, Exhibit J.
Okay.
You want me to pull that up or no?
So if you go to 0851, okay, you'll see that the dates for that are from January to March 2019. Because it's really difficult when we're doing it are we looking at? We're always, I mean, most of our financial on a calendar year, so that schedule at OH 51 is the date, January through March.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else on the board, would anybody like to ask any questions? Ms. Jordan?
Okay, you're unmuted.
When you were testifying, Mr. Ray, I couldn't understand if you said that delinquency listing was since the pandemic, or was it prior to as well?
I'm sorry, I couldn't really understand the question. Someone,
The delinquency listing, was that just since the pandemic?
I apologize, I'm still not getting.
I think the question about the delinquency list, what's the time period?
Chris, do you know which?
It's OH 11.
And I'm not sure, so it's about, the question was about the list.
Time period.
And, okay, well, you can see with an average rent number, a lot of these people would have been that current month of June or May. You know, you can almost see the time frame. This was as of a specific date, June 12th. And obviously, so the tenant who owed $8,006, the tenant listed 19, not 190, under the line, it's unit 196, owes $8,654. So that would be, you know, we divided that by roughly the average rent. It would give you an idea of how many months they owed.
Okay.
And you can see the majority of people, it's a month or two, or even some of them are less, some of them are more.
Understood. Are there any more questions? I don't see any, but I'm also seeing black boxes for some of the people on the board, so I'm not sure if anybody else sees any questions.
Should I unmute everyone?
Okay. Would we like to move into the public portion, or would we like to take a 5-minute break?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Would you like to move right into the public portion, or should we take a 5-minute break?
So,
5-minute break.
yeah, Mr. Cantor, we should take
Yes.
a break, but I also want to ask Mr. Hanlon, is Mr. Lackey going to be testifying now? Or are we going to be hearing from the public as to we should probably wait for the public and they can ask their questions en masse, so we won't have them ask Mr. Way anything right now. But Mr. Hanlon, are you going to be taking testimony for Mr. Lackey?
No, he's only a potential rebuttal witness,
Okay.
depending upon what questions would come up from either the board or the public about maintenance.
Okay, with that being the case, then we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll post our sign up that the public can dial in now to the extent they haven't, and we'll get them up and ready to go. And if they ask questions of Mr. Way, then, you know, he can answer them and with Mr. Hanlon's guidance.
Okay, I have the time at 7:56. Let's give it a couple more minutes and we'll start back up at 8:05.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm gonna leave it on, mute.
Okay, it looks like everybody's back, so I'm gonna call this meeting back to order. Mr. Hanlon, are you done with your testimony?
Sorry, I'm just going to
He's
unmute
on
you,
mute.
Mr. Hanlon. Give me a moment. Let's see.
I did not hear the question, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Are you finished with your testimony?
Yes, obviously reserving the right to respond to any other questions that come up, but subject to that, yes.
So acknowledged. Okay, I'm going to, do we need a motion to move the meeting to public comment, or can I just go to public comment?
We can go to public comment.
Okay, I'm gonna make an announcement, and then we will move to public comment. I'm guessing this is going to be a bit tricky, so if everybody could just have some patience. The rent control board meeting is now open to the public for questions or comments. Anyone wishing to ask questions or comment on this application may do so by calling 1-833-247-7123. The meeting, and everything is posted. The meeting code ID is 296-6452, and the PIN number is 3333. If anybody needs that information again, please ask.
So we will see them.
Otherwise, Caitlin, go to it.
Okay. So we'll see them call in.
Do we have anybody currently?
I'm gonna mute them. Or what do you want to do?
Is she part
Diana Smith, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can everyone else?
Okay. Perfect. I wasn't sure if I needed to call in or could ask questions via the meeting here.
Ms. Smith, this is Joe Clark.
Yes.
I'm the attorney for the board. I'm going to ask you, wherever you are, to raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Diana Smith, 44 Secretariat Street.
Okay, you can go ahead with your questions or comments or whatever you called in for today.
Thank you. And if there is any reverb, just let me know and I'll try to spread out my statement. So I and many others live on the outskirts of the detention pond, and for at least 5 years now, it has been a garbage dump. It has been littered with garbage for quite some time. During the winter months, there's somewhat of a clearing, but during the summer months, it is completely covered with something that has been already tested by the NJDEP for duckweed, but it creates a sheet across the entire pond, basically, I guess, sealing in everything and also preventing movement of water, thus preventing movement of any garbage that comes in via the sewers or wherever it's coming in from. And there's also a very bad stench that comes from the pond as well from time to time on a frequent basis, especially during the summer months. This pond has never been dealt with. Multiple members of the community here have voiced their concerns to management. We either get a statement of, well, that's not our responsibility, or this is a natural occurrence, or whatever the response would be. And the problem continues. There's also lots of wildlife that live back there as well. So this is negatively impacting them. We have plenty of pictures to provide if needed, but there's no resolution. Spring, summer, fall, it's a mess back there. It's an eyesore. And as I said, the garbage is excessive. This isn't just a couple of bottles. This is lots of big items, bottles, laundry detergent bottles, and so forth. So given this, and I see that there's been, fees assessed, fees that have been brought by Oak Hill for so-called cleaning this pond, but there is no evidence that this ever is accomplished, because the problem continues, and if they're only emptying out the area where things go to the other side of the pond, that's one area of a very large pond. So my question is, what can be done about this? And if we're paying towards these fees, then nothing is getting accomplished. My question is, where is our money going?
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Hamlin or
would you
Mr. Rouet?
Yeah,
I
Mr.
think
Hanlon
Mr. Lackey?
or Mr. Hanley, would you like Mr. Wade to, I think we have him on mute right now.
No, it's on.
I think Mr. Lackey is going to supply
Okay.
this answer, correct, Mr. Rouet? No, Mr. Rouet's raising his hand. Let him
Can you
in.
hear me? Okay, can I be heard? Am I being heard? Yeah, okay. And we may need to do this two ways. First, I'd like to make a comment, and then we can have Mr. Lackey. The detention pond is probably an issue that's gotten mentioned 9 of the 21 times we've been before the board. It is a detention pond, it's not a lake. It was designed when the community was built. It's designed to retain the stormwater on the property. The detention pond not only services Oak Hill, it services the apartment complex out in front of Oak Hill. It also, the township's stormwater, part of the system, stormwater system on the road out in front of the community, also empties into this detention pond. No one else except us cleans it. And we clean it on an ongoing, regular basis. It is inspected by the township. It's inspected by the county health. It has never failed to pass those inspections. It is working properly, but it will never, ever be a lake or a pond for recreation. It's simply the facts of how it was designed. It's a retention pond. The idea is to collect the pollutants and have them remain on the property. So when it warms up, it does get a green covering to it, but that is normal. That covering has been tested by the county health department. And we do clean it regularly on an ongoing basis. Those numbers are in the exhibit. Go and look at them. I know that most of the board members are familiar with prior year's discussions on this. And now I think we can maybe have Keith Lackey comment on it, since firsthand knowledge of cleaning on an ongoing basis.
Okay, so can you mute Mr. Rouet and unmute Mr. Lackey, please? Can you hear me, Mr. Lackey?
Yes, I can.
Okay, did you hear Ms. Smith's testimony?
Ms. Smith, yes.
Okay, so just before you proceed, you are a contractor that works for Oak Hill, correct?
My company contracts with Oak Hill for 21 years.
Okay, and your company and you have been a licensed landscaping contractor by the state of New Jersey for decades, correct?
Yes, decades,
Okay.
and I'm also with the Monmouth County. We do parks. We're one of the few contractors licensed to do parks. We also do detention ponds. One of the projects we did last year was the Millstone Park.
Okay, so now,
Detention ponds.
all right, now, can you respond to her comments and particularly focus on her concern that it's filled with garbage?
As Mr. Rouet pointed out, we take from the apartments There's many storm drains in the apartments, probably 12 to 13 over there. We also get West Farms Road, from the storm drains there, garbage, 7-Eleven cups, Wawas, whatever. It comes through the main storm drain and it goes into our detention pond. So not only do we take all our storm drains, all the apartment storm drains, and West Farm Road storm drains. We take care of this on a weekly basis. And I've caught personally a guy putting a Home Depot shopping cart in there that lives in the park here. We're on top of it. I work with the health department. We passed every year. We work, before it was Alex. Alex has retired. Now it's John Aguilera. We work with him on a monthly basis. He comes in here several times for one of the code enforcements that work for him that he delegates to. And we look at it. It passes the health department and it passes the county. We cannot control that it gets a little every year. And it's not only this detention pond, you could go different ones. They get this pollen and they have different names for it, but it has not, we can't control that.
Well, aside from the duckweed or whatever the green substance is on the lake, and that's natural and it's probably affected by the dirty quality of the runoff from the streets. Put that aside.
Absolutely.
In addition, there's garbage, correct?
Correct.
How often is it policed so that the garbage is removed?
We police it once a week. We take care of the property here every 2 weeks. So it is maintained every 2 weeks. And as people pointed out, Ms. Smith, some of it I find to be untruths. We also have pictures when we're cleaning it up. On a 2-week interval, we could get 20 or 30 garbage bags that we take away. And Mr. Aguilar has been here, the code enforcement for Howell Township. So it's hard to keep up on it, but we do keep up on it. I can't be there every day to watch every kid that throws a bottle into the lake, but we police it, we take care of it.
All right. Is there any, now, obviously, if the garbage comes in, it's from third parties, landlord isn't responsible for that. But is there ever a time when it's not policed every 2 weeks, at least every 2 weeks?
We do the lawns every 2 weeks, all summer long. It's policed every 2 weeks. We have a flow channel. It's an old style flow channel with an upper flow and a lower one. Sometimes the kids clog this on purpose. They drive dirt bikes to the back. Not even residents in our park, but we have to deal with the apartments and the adjacent properties on all 3 sides. And the one woman owns probably 3-4 acres, and her sons have dirt bikes, and of course friends come over in that, and they cut through our park, and they're back there. They seem to gather at nighttime. We've had the police over here and reports, but we keep up on it every 2 weeks. We keep up on it.
Okay, Mr. Lackey's available for any questions from Ms. Smith or from the board, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Smith, do you have any questions for Ms. Lackey?
I do want to contribute that I understand that, this is a difficult thing to keep up on, but there's a lot of garbage that stays over on one side, also throughout the pond. And I understand that it's not a lake, but the issue is that we all live around this and we are subject to look at this garbage dump, also smell the stench that comes from it that's literally nauseating. I have to go back inside because it's that bad. Because I'm assuming the duckweed seals everything in and then odors accumulate and emit from this water retention pond. But the garbage that's there can't move to the other side where that big drain is that probably Keith is mentioning that he cleans out. Nothing can get over there because the duckweed prevents it from moving. Also, the amount of garbage, I've seen same garbage there for at least a year or 2. I notice the same things are there. And they're very unique in some fashions. So I understand this is a big thing to take on and that you can't always keep up with it, but it's the entire pond that's a problem. And unless you can get over to where our part is, you'd have to get in a boat, I guess, but it's still an issue, and it's the garbage, the odor, resale value. I've ever sold, you know, people look at that, they're like, I don't want to live behind a garbage dump like that.
I guess Mr. Hanlon, I'll address this to you. Your witnesses have certified that the Howell Township enforcement person has come over and is certified that detention pond is working properly? Is that
Well,
correct?
Mr. Lockey was under oath. That was his testimony.
Yes.
And I think it's significant when we're in front of a township board to make representations about the behavior of township employees, because obviously, you know, you can check up on us very easily. So I would respectfully urge you to consider that to be credible testimony.
So taken. Okay, Ms. Smith, are there any other questions?
No, that's it for me for now.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for taking the time and effort to log on to this.
Thank you.
I appreciate your concern. Are there any other people that are waiting to offer testimony from the public?
Yes.
Appreciate your concern. Are there any other people that are waiting to offer testimony from the public?
Yes, it looks like there is another caller.
Yes, hi.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Your concern. Are there any other people?
Caller?
I think I'm having different feedback with my phone and with what I'm seeing online, so I'm
Okay,
just gonna, sorry, mute what you guys are hearing. Hopefully you can hear me.
can you hear me?
Could someone give me a thumbs up?
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Okay. This is Jennifer Sterling.
Okay, Ms. Serlin, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Would-
Okay, thank you. Yes, I can
okay,
hear
would-
you. Thank you.
Would you raise your
I
right
appreciate
hand?
it. Thank you for the thumbs up.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Jennifer Sterling, 40 Secretariat Street, Howell, New Jersey.
Okay. And for the record, I'll note that Ms. Serlin submitted some photographs. I think we have them loaded in. They just came in today, so we haven't been able to share them. I've labeled them. There are 6 pictures. I've labeled them OBJ 1 through 6. I will make sure that everybody gets a copy after the hearing, and we will put them up on the video screen to the extent that Ms. Serlin's going to refer to them. So, Ms. Serlin, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I wasn't going to start with the basin, but I guess I will piggyback onto what Diana was stating about the basin. The basin is also in my backyard, and I understand it is a detention pond. It's not a basin. Prior to me moving here, Bob, we bring this up every time I speak at a rent control board meeting. I know exactly what it is. I'm not confused with it being a lake. I spoke with Patty Hoover prior to moving in, so I'm very well what it is. But you have to come to a point that this detention pond did not look like this 10 years ago. You can go into Tuscana, which is right behind us, and theirs is clear as day. I might have to call back in because I'm so sorry. I'm having horrific feedback. Would that be very annoying to everybody? I only hearing my voice echoed in my
We're fine hearing you as long as you speak slowly. And I think she's calling back in. There we go.
Yeah, she's watching the live feed at the same time.
So it's feeding back into itself.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's doing that, but.
Let's give her a few minutes.
Okay, hi. I'm so sorry about that. I apologize.
That's
All I
okay.
was
We can hear
getting
you
is
fine.
reverb. Okay, I apologize. All I was hearing was myself echoed in my ear, and it was impossible to speak. So my apologies about that. I do apologize. Because, you know, Bob, in the October 12th, 2016 Rent Control Board meeting, you were asked by a board member if you removed branches from the basin, and you stated yes. Under oath, you stated that. You know, there's branches that have been in that basin from July 31st, 2011. You were actually in my backyard to look at the property at 42 Secretariat Street on August 1st, 2011. That one particular branch is still there. So if this basin is being maintained every 2 weeks or every other week or once a month, or as you state in these you know, expenses that you're submitting, how is that one particular branch still there? And I'll just focus on this year because I can go back to multiple years. You guys stated that you came around here on 10/2/19, and you say you did the basin and you cut and removed limbs. Well, there was a tree at 38 Secretariat Street, a huge tree that went out into the basement. If you went around and you saw this, how is that tree still there? Because then there's still pictures of it there. Actually, on March, all right, when you guys did come around, this actually was the first time that I saw someone come around in a really long time, come to our side of the basin. I think it was, it wasn't planning on starting with this, I'm sorry. I think it was like March 27th of this year. I actually saw one of Keith's guys come around to collect garbage. And how I know the garbage was actually collected was because there was this red tire at the edge of the basin that has been there for well over a year. He actually did pick up some garbage. That piece was gone, but the tree branch and all the other branches in the tree were still there. And I can show pictures the following day that they're still there. Another huge tree on April 9th fell in the basin at 38 Secretariat Street. It's still sitting there months later. So I'm confused with how you're saying that the basin is being maintained every 2 weeks when these huge branches that you stated under oath are being taken out, when you disrespect, but they clearly are not.
Mr. Lockey or Mr. Hanlon? Mr. Away?
Hello?
Yeah.
All right, Keith,
Wait, wait.
Mr. Lackey is unmuted.
Okay, we have Mr.
Can-
Lackey and Mr. Way and Mr. Hanlon unmuted.
Okay.
Okay,
Wait.
I'd like to make a comment first.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, some of that I could not get. I believe that she was talking about, you know, some history here on the site, and I being there, I have been there on the site. One of the things that I want to make clear is that the detention pond was built and designed. We did not build this property. It came into it after it had existed for a while. It was built and designed and approved by the township. Its location and the proximity of
I
it.
can't hear him. Anyone else? Anyone else hear him?
Horrible.
We're going to mute everybody except for Mr. Way.
Thank you.
Okay, are you ready?
Oh, just give us a moment. I'm just going to mute everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to start over in case anybody missed that. I couldn't hear everything, all of the questions or testimony, but I will say, I've been personally on that pond and on a number of sites dealing with individual residents. One thing I want to make clear is that the design of the pond was originally built and designed and met township approval. It was all approved and built as it was supposed to be and has been operated as such. Now, we maintain it and remove the trash. One thing we will not do is we are not maintaining it as a recreational vehicle. So we actually want to discourage people from going down to the pond using it. So oftentimes the growth that's there, the trees, the bushes, we do not clear cut them. We leave them there to discourage use of the area. It's posted no trespassing, so we don't want anyone traversing it, going down to it. I know one year we had somebody testify about people actually going swimming in there. Some people testifying that they fish and they eat the fish out of that water. Some I personally would not do. So the point just simply is that we do maintain it, but we don't maintain it as a recreational area. We don't want people accessing it or using it. As some of the residents have done, they've clear cut their banks, and that's created erosion problems, and we address that, and we tell the residents that they cannot cut it. It's not even there for it to be a view. It's simply there to treat and dispose of the storm water from the multiple properties that use it. So again, it's not a recreational area. We're not cleaning it up for that purpose. We're cleaning it up to keep it healthy and doing what it's supposed to do. Now, if Keith Lackey may have some further comments.
Go ahead. The resident was trying to speak.
Well, I was not referring to any sort of recreational activity whatsoever. I'm talking to you about huge trees and huge branches that have fallen in the basin that are causing garbage and things to collect in it, not recreational whatsoever, and causing the basin to overflow even more than it does. And as you know, we already had the basin overflow once, in which the water was up to the trunk of my car, and my property and my home was damaged. I lost my car, as well as a number of other things, in which Oakhill, you did not respond nicely. Not to be resolved right now. We can discuss it another time. So these are not about recreational usage. I did not discuss any type of recreational usage at all. I was discussing something that you specifically were asked under oath about removing branches from the basin. You stated yes. I'm giving you 3 specific examples of huge branches in the basin that do not belong there, trees that are in there, and you're stating that you are maintaining it, when I'm giving you examples that it's not maintained. Nothing about recreational. So forgive me if you misunderstood what I was stating, but I'm just letting you know that I was not discussing about recreational use whatsoever.
Okay, I would say, just as we do with all our residents, if they take the time to send us pictures or in writing a description of it, we will happily investigate and take appropriate action. I just have, quite honestly, I can't say that I actually remember any of the events either did or did not take place, or those statements. I mean, she's referred to dates and things in the past. I have been there. I have personally talked to Jen. We know that. We've had a number of issues over the years. I think we do everything we can to address the issues as she brings them up. We treat her as courteously as we possibly can, and we'd be happy on an ongoing basis to continue to address the issues if they're brought up to us. I don't know if she's notified us since those dates. I have no recollection of it, but I would be perfectly happy to have someone take a look at it if she sends us what she has there, or what she is referring
But if you're
to.
testifying that the basin is maintained every 2 weeks, how are these things not being noticed? I mean, one is from 2011. I showed pictures of it at the rent control board meeting in 2016.
I'm saying we maintain the property trash, make sure it's healthy and working from a detention pond point of view, not healthy and working from a recreational pond or lake point of view. And those are totally different. So I don't know the specifics of what she's referring to, but bring them to our attention again, and we're happy to take care of them. I'm also perfectly willing to admit we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we will do our best to make good on it. If you send them to us in
When I bring
writing.
things to your attention,
All right.
you retaliate against me, and you send me notices to cease, or you write me up for bogus things.
Ms. Serlin? Ms. Serlin? Ms. Serlin?
Yes?
When Mr. Away is speaking, please, I'm going to ask you, because it's very difficult with this type of meeting to have two people speaking at the same time. Please don't interrupt.
I think I'm having a delay. I'm going to refresh. I'm sorry. It looked like he was paused to me. I apologize.
Yeah,
in
please-
advance.
please
I'm
don't
refreshing
refresh.
my screen.
Please don't refresh. We're going to put you on mute while Mr. Away speaks, and then when it's your turn to talk, we'll take you off of mute and we'll let you know that you're back on the air.
Okay, I will just comment on the last thing that I heard. We treat all residents as fairly as we can. We take their complaints, we investigate, and we take appropriate levels of action. Obviously, yeah, we've had some issues here with Jen over the time she's referred to, her getting notices of violations, issues with neighbors. I don't think this is the appropriate setting for any of that. I don't know that it's, but I'll let Chris Hanlon comment on that. I think her issues have been addressed as best we can, and we're happy to continue to address them on an ongoing basis if they're brought to our attention.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, so I just want to get past some confusion that I have based upon that dialogue you just had with Ms. Serlin. Forget recreational use. Keith's testimony was that the pond is policed and garbage is removed. Does garbage include natural tree fall that's in it? Or do you leave that there?
Generally speaking, I mean, we would leave it there if it's naturally fallen around the basin. If it's blocking the exit where the detention pond is supposed to drain out or overflow into, yes, then we do remove. We remove impediments that stop the detention pond from functioning, but
Okay,
not other things that naturally fall, because we don't want the area to be a walking area.
That's all I have is follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Ms. Serlin still there?
Yes, I'm scared to speak. It looks like Bob is talking.
Okay, it's your turn.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt him at all. Okay. Okay. I mean, because it's just in the lease, it just says that, the landlord's responsible for drainage. And I will say Alex from Code Enforcement used to be appalled by the state of the basin. I know he no longer is here, but he was lovely, and he used to be appalled by the state of the basin and at how close it was to our homes and the smell of the basin and how it looked. So I am just going to put that out there. But I will move on and past this subject and can provide a multitude of pictures at any point in time to the board or anyone who would like to see them. I'm just going to state that I have a question going back to something that Bob brought up at the beginning of this conversation, going to your like Exhibit I with the maintenance costs that are provided to the tenants. And I have a question to you, I guess, to you, Bob, I guess, since you brought it up, regarding some of your costs and services that you're stating that are provided. And I just wanted to clarify some of them, if you wouldn't mind. I know that you have snow services and ice control as two separate line items. And like when I've gone back to our or to your spending submissions going back to like 2016, it sort of has typically been that way as two separate line items. Some years it's listed as 7 tons of ice control, 7 tons of ice control. So to me, when I assume 7 tons, could you explain to me what you mean by ice control of the roadways?
Why don't we have Keith, Mr. Lackey answer that?
That ice. Yeah.
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes,
We can hear you, Mr. Lackey.
Okay, I'd like to speak on a couple things, but I will answer that.
just answer that one.
It takes 7 tons to salt this entire park. This park is maybe a couple miles of roadways, bus stops, and so forth. So it takes 7 tons. 7 tons is one truck. The board members are all probably familiar with a large dump truck with sander on the back. There's 7 tons to do this park. Okay? But I'd also like to rebuttal a couple of things Ms. Serling said about her car overflowing and so forth. She's talking about Haynes. She's talking about Sandy. She's talking about the other one where you couldn't even get down West Farms Road. Remember, Route 9 was all blocked off. I've lived in Howell, the whole area for 50-something years. And I've worked here for 48 in Howell. And you could any place. It wasn't just the pond that raised, the streets were flooded. You couldn't get down Casino. You couldn't get across the highway. So it had nothing to do with detention pond or the blockage. Also, we've had neighbors, there's cross complaints with her, cutting trees and letting the branches fall into the lake. They're documented from her neighbor. There's an ongoing thing on that street with Miss Searle and the neighbor. When there was a large tree branch, we have a hook, we pull it to the top, and we cut it. Little things that grow, they're called sweet gums, gum trees. They're planted on many detention ponds. The root structure was the detention pond. Miss Serling cut all the trees down on her back. What this does is causes erosion, causes dirt to the pond, and she helps to send that blockage by cutting all her trees down because she doesn't like trees. Now, this is a testimony. This is a lot of her neighbors.
We're good.
Okay?
I understand. Your point is well taken.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's leave the witness's best testimony as it is.
Okay.
All right. Do we have more witnesses?
You can put it on.
No, there are no more callers.
Okay. Then I'm going to declare the public comment section closed. And let me look at my agenda, but I think I know what's next. And go into what the boards decide. Now,
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, can I just make a couple of comments real quick?
Certainly, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No apology needed, of course. Thank you. So, excuse me. One of the comments made earlier by Mr. Rouet was that the board gave Winding Brook a 5% increase, and Oak Hill was hoping for the same. And I just want to elaborate on that slightly. Certainly, you're not locked in by any prior decision. At least that's my understanding of the law. You serve as an administrative agency, and in addition to applying the law to facts, you get to make policy from time to time. The point that we'd like to make, and hopefully the board will consider, is that I think what the board should be doing is establishing what I call a housing policy for Howell Township. Now, it's only the housing policy for the properties that are the subject of your ordinance, which are the mobile home parks. And you have certain discretion in setting what that policy is. For an application like this, and this is what you typically deal with, it's between 0 and 5% because it's capped at 5%. You're supposed to consider the CPI, but respectfully, if you're setting a housing policy for this type of housing throughout the town, we think, respectfully, it should be more consistent. Because what we've observed is Winding Brook comes in and they'll typically get a number that's higher than this property. And, we've searched through the record and the history of this type of result. And we really don't see a factual difference between the properties which would be related to a bona fide housing policy. Like, for example, the ordinance gives you discretion to consider code violations. And there are never any code violations which have been demonstrated for this property. There's really, and hopefully you've been to the property. It is well maintained. I have to say it's as maintained as well as any other community in town. Since I represent the others, I can't say it's the best one. I'll get in trouble with those other clients. But this is a nice mobile home park. It is well maintained. So factually, we don't think there is a significant difference. And then if you look at the CPI numbers, frankly, this year, for example, the CPI in the winter before the pandemic was slightly higher than it is now. Of course, with the pandemic, the result of the pandemic is the economy was shut down by the government. So, of course, if you look at CPI data, it's really low. But that would mean that your housing policy would basically treat different tenants in mobile home parks differently based on what I think can't be tantamount to happenstance. Who applied first? Why didn't Oak Hill apply earlier? Respectfully, I think a good housing policy should be that most landlords should be getting a consistent level of rent increase unless there's a specific factual justification for not doing so. So for all those reasons, we are respectfully requesting that you do award us the 5%. As indicated, my client wants to work with the tenants. They're voluntarily would waive the first month of the increase. And let me just explain that. I don't know if it needs to be explained, but I don't want to leave anything out. As we understand it, once we have an effective date, so let's say it's August, that's been this park's anniversary date for decades now, then it can't be sooner than that next year. Typically, the board, even though your ordinance isn't clear in this regard, most rent boards won't allow more than one rent increase in any 12-month period. So if, for example, we were to postpone our effective date attempting to work with the tenants till September 1st, that means it would be September 1st forever. So while my client wants to work with their tenants this year because of the circumstances, ironically, they don't want to be punished for doing so by losing rental increases every year hereafter. So that's why it's kind of an interesting request. We're requesting an effective date of August 1st, but we don't want to collect the rent then. We want to postpone it till September. And we think that's in light of what's happening in the park and the second phase of what's about to happen, meaning once the landlord-tenant court's open, there's going to be negotiations with these tenants. And frankly, every landlord I know is giving people payment plans going into 2021 because nobody wants a lot of evictions for many reasons. Hopefully it's for the right reasons, even if it's for the wrong selfish reasons, practically speaking, no one wants that. So there's going to be a rental loss here for 2020. It's inevitable. But all things being considered, they still want to waive the first month's increase should the board approve the request of 5%. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has. Otherwise, thank you very much.
I just want to comment on one thing that you said, if I may. I did take the opportunity to drive through the mobile home park, and I agree that it is very well maintained. The streets are clean. The playground was clean. The clubhouse looks very nice. And to me, it looks like a nice place to live. So I would say thank you to the management company for making this a nice place to live for my fellow Howell residents.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, but we're also going to share the credit because the mobile home park can't look good without good-looking houses. And while my client has a reconstruction effort going, they rebuild houses that they get stuck with. That's a small percentage. Most of the homes in there are good-looking because the tenants do the work. We need to give them credit.
Agreed. All right. That being said, the applicant is seeking a 5% rent increase effective August 1st, but they've agreed to delay the actual increase until September 1st. What is the board's pleasure? Can I have a...
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Russo.
if I may, I have a question for Joe Clark.
Sure.
Mr. Clark, I understand the governor has I guess a freeze on on rent increases so long as the executive order is in place. Is that accurate?
So I will ask Mr. Hanlon to address that because he's probably more in tune with
Okay.
the executive orders in terms of rental freezes and not being able to raise rent during the pendency of the declared health emergency.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Russo, I am familiar with every executive order that's come out since the pandemic started because I represent so many landlords, we have to stay in tune with them. And there is no rent freeze imposed by any of them. There's legislation that was introduced that would do that, but none of it has passed so far. The relief that has been given to tenants is twofold. In the Federal CARES Act, there's a prohibition against collecting any late fees or any fees related to any rent default, and no evictions can be filed until after July 28th, 2020, based upon rent cases. And oops, I just drew a blank. In the executive orders, there's a ban on lockouts. So there's a very strange situation with landlord-tenant practice. The executive order, it's number 106, specifically states evictions can be initiated, but there can't be a lockout until 60 days after the end of the state of emergency. Right now, the state of emergency is due to expire, I think August 3rd. I could be off a day or two. So there'll be no lockouts once a judgment of possession can be entered before the first week of October. Compounding that delay, the Supreme Court has announced that it doesn't want any service of process by court officers. So even though under the governor's executive order, we can initiate or file complaints, they can't be served. And there are no court dates being scheduled by any landlord-tenant court that are real. I've been assigned court dates in cases I filed pre-pandemic in May. They were adjourned to June. They were adjourned to July. They were now adjourned to August. So the court dates are anything less than serious in my mind because I've had numerous meetings with numerous assignment judges and tenancy court judges, and no one can answer the question, how are we going to get all these people in the courthouse? You would appreciate this. I'm sure it's the same problem they're wrestling with how are we going to have jury trials? So basically the system's shut down, but that's the status across the board of every law I'm aware of that impacts landlord-tenant. There's no freeze.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. I appreciate that. So just to clarify, there's nothing in the executive orders currently that would prevent a board from increasing it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
A follow-up question. Is there anything that prevents this board from increasing rent at this time?
No. And I've appeared in front of at least 2 other rent boards during this time that have approved rent increases.
Okay.
And most of the landlords, by the way, are doing things similar to what my client did. They're postponing their effective dates. Even if they can get a rent increase, they want to try to work with the tenants.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Are there any other questions?
If not, Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion.
I didn't hear that, but
Mr. Chairman,
what would somebody from the board like to make a motion?
I think Mr. Russo intended to make a motion.
For 5%?
yeah, correct. I'd like to make a motion, and before I do, I just want everyone to be aware of the reality that a lot of residents are going through financial difficulty, as is everybody at this time. We have to balance this reality with the fact that the park needs additional money to provide a safe and clean community for all residents. You know, with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to permit a 4% increase. I think it's reasonable at this time.
Would they have to stop at the 5?
Again, my reason for not approving the 5 at this time is because of the financial hardship that's being placed on virtually everyone at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Do I have a second? I do not have a second. What is the board's pleasure?
Yeah, no, I'd like to make a motion for the 5.
Thank you, Mr. Quatrano. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Ms. Jordan. Thank you, Mrs. Jordan. We'll move to a vote. Would you call the names off, Ms. Doran?
Yep. Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Ms. Jordan,
Yes.
Mr. Quatrano,
Yes.
Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
and Mr. Russo?
No.
The motion
Well-
passes.
The motion passes. And I thank you very much, everybody, for your time this evening. Do we have anything else to come before the board, Ms. Doran or Mr. Clark?
No, we do not.
All right, I want to thank you, Mr. Hanlon.
He's on mute, sorry, hold on.
He's muted.
I'll unmute everyone, hold on. All right, everyone should be unmuted.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering your time, and as I said at the outset, thanks for the extra effort involved in just, having the board operational in this method. It's difficult for everyone, but it's appreciated.
And I would like to echo, thank you, everybody, for your patience and time this evening. This was very challenging, and we did it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Please? Pretty
Motion
free.
to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Anybody second it?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.